Since the dawn of time, we have been obsessed with creating images. Ever since humans first painted images of bulls on cave walls, our lives have revolved around capturing and relaying moments, both personal and historical. But how did we go from cave walls to camera phones? From rulers of ancient Greece who waited years to immortalize their likeness in marble, to monarchs who sat still for days for painted portraits of themselves.
I think there is this obsession of human being of using image to record and pass down memories. And then it has been definitely evolving. The big portion in the population who are visual learners just gets really appealed to visual communication, including the mobile short-form videos today.
Taking videos has become a highlight of modern life. But it took many iterations and decades to get here.
The idea for instant home movies was as old as the idea for the Polaroid camera, so it dated back to the 1940s. And by the late 1960s, they were working on the film technology that would make it possible.
It was, as a technological achievement, spectacular. It was beautiful.
And when it comes to instant short videos, the industry has recorded the rise and fall of dozens of companies. Today, the cycle continues in the digital realm, and one instant video sharing app has taken the world by storm.
Well, I would describe it as phenomenal. Really the first Chinese tech titan to straddle this global world.
So, which trailblazing companies have irreversibly altered the fabric of the instant video sharing universe? And how did they do it?
We even hid the camera so we could see life as it really is.
We're all sort of living in this insane digital time.
I think humor just drives people to take action.
Other people had thought of doing this in the past, but no one pulled it off when Polaroid did.
Get your own Polavision system and start making instant movies.
I'm a cat person, and I have a super cute kitty. So I also like to see cat videos on TikTok.
Wang Yunwen is a fourth-year PhD student at University of Southern California. She published a paper based on a study she did on how humor and camera perspectives enhance user experience on the instant video sharing app TikTok.
There has been just an increasing mobile phone ownership in Asia in the past decade. From cell phone to the now smartphone, there are just more powerful cameras, video editing tools.
In recent years, Asia's social media screen time has skyrocketed. In 2019, social media penetration rates from Eastern, Southern, and Southeast Asia were ranked the top 3 in the world. Today, Asians are some of the heaviest social media consumers in the world.
With the increasing introduction of 5G technologies, we can expect the ownership of social media apps also to increase accordingly.
And all that action is unfolding on apps like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the latest instant video sharing app to take the world by storm.
Tik Tok.
Would describe it as phenomenal. I don't think we've seen many startup stories as strong as this one, particularly from China.
Rebecca Fannin charts the rise and fall of business titans.
I'm chiming in here from Silicon Valley.
Her second book, aptly titled Tech Titans of China, examines some of the most remarkable journeys of Chinese tech companies in today's world, and focuses on China's very first global internet success story.
This company app was founded in about 2016, and just a few years ago they had only around 200 million, and now has a phenomenal number of users, something like 800 million users globally. So there's very few companies or tech titans that can compare with that kind of astronomical growth rate in users.
By April 2019, TikTok had over 9 million downloads. The app has all but dominated the short video market. Its user base is largely Gen Z, those born after 1996, who are younger than Facebook and Instagram's users.
It is an extremely addictive platform. Super easy for anybody to post creative content and create creative content.
But all of this popularity has come with some controversy, and the app has been accused of misusing user data. The app burst onto the instant video scene in 2016. Zhang Yiming, who rarely gives media interviews, founded TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, in 2012.
The founder himself has Microsoft in his bio. So you have a Chinese company that had an international footprint almost from day one. And they've raised a lot of money too. Their parent company is the #1 valued privately held company in the world, ByteDance.
As of May 2020, ByteDance is worth over $100 billion US. But things wouldn't stay rosy in the TikTok world.
We've seen the ecological system of social media apps. There are so many social media apps booming and then gone.
Decades before TikTok would be glued to our eyeballs, instant video was just an idea. In the nostalgic days of analog, one company would be a pioneer.
Polaroid announces an economy model of the famous color pack camera for half the price of the original.
Yeah, we're all sort of living in this insane digital time where everyone's are just being drowned by their phones every single day. And a lot of analog products like record players are becoming popular with young people who are just now thinking, geez, I gotta get away from my phone for like 5 seconds. And so I think what Polaroid is offering is this touch of tangibility.
A touch of tangibility. A moment we can hold. A profile we'd all recognize in an instant.
The kind of photography that would become part of the human being. Press a button and have the picture.
Welcome to In an Instant. My name is Ben, and today's Instant Breakdown examines the spectacular invention of sonar autofocus in the original Polaroid cameras.
Polaroid cameras were created by the Polaroid company, who changed photography completely by introducing instant photography. During that time, taking a photo meant having to wait days to see it, while it developed in the local camera store.
Polaroid is a company founded on the fundamental principle of creative innovation.
And often associated with a line of cameras that were quite simply sublime. Edwin Land was the genius behind Polaroid. He invented numerous products that inspired filmmaker Ben Frattinelli to create an entire YouTube channel about them.
Welcome to In an Instant. My name is Ben, and today we're talking about Polavision. Oh.
Wait, what?
Oh, hold on, this isn't YouTube. This is a documentary. Hold on, let me just reorient myself real quick. This is a totally different thing. Okay, I'm ready.
Now we're talking. Take it away, Ben.
One day when I picked up that Polaroid camera from my childhood and started shooting with it again, it just put me back in touch with the thing that I loved about photography in the first place, which is like making something that's kind of magic.
The Polaroid enjoyed an epic standing in the art and pop culture world. Andy Warhol, the Eameses, and even John Lennon and Yoko Ono used it in their work.
So Edwin Land was very much a visionary, and he saw his Polaroid camera as a transformative tool for artists to express their creativity and to express their ideas.
In Asia, the Polaroid faced stiff competition. The German Rolleiflex camera, which was even manufactured in Singapore in the 1970s, was a hit with photography enthusiasts. Canon also set up shop, with their popular and more affordable cameras overshadowing the Polaroid. But the brand still had its niche group of fans. Priscilla Chua is a Polaroid fan and curator of the 2018 exhibition, In an Instant, Polaroid at the Intersection of Art and Technology.
One of the key themes that we wanted to convey through the exhibition was the whole notion of the instant or instantaneity had affected us as a society today. And for us to draw the connection between the instant as created by Polaroid and the culture of instant that we are living in today. Visitors came forward to share their experiences with Polaroid with us. So one of them actually saw fashion photographers in Singapore back in the 70s and 80s using Polaroid cameras at fashion shoots. These photographers used the cameras to basically check if the angles were correct, if the models were posing correctly. These are the things that we can very easily do with our phone cameras today. But back in the 70s and 80s, which was before the digital age, Polaroid cameras were the go-to for these photographers back then.
Polaroid invented instant photography. It combined the camera, development, and printing of a photo all in one instant package, simplifying the art and science needed to create an image. And we have a 3-year-old's innocent question to thank for the start of photographic instant gratification.
This is the great founding myth of Polaroid, which he once called our apocryphal true story.
Chris Bonanos published a book about Polaroid and carries the Polaroid camera around with him every day.
Edwin Land was on his vacation with his daughter, who was 3 years old, and his daughter turned to him while he was taking pictures of her and said, "Daddy, why can't I see the picture now?" Land, in a moment, said, how would you do that? And he spent that night walking around the resort, figuring out how would one do this? And 3 hours later, he got in touch with his lawyer and started dictating a disclosure for the patent files to make sure it was all on paper. That is the genesis of Polaroid.
At its peak in the mid-70s, over 50,000 employees in the Polaroid Corporation were making and selling 13 million cameras a year. That raked in a whopping $2 billion in revenue, or $10 billion today. That's the revenue of modern high-value companies like Uber in 2019. The next thing on Polaroid's agenda was to create video cameras that would do the same.
SX70 arrived in 1972 and was a monster hit, really the dominant gotta-have-it cultural electronics product of its era, as much as the iPhone was in, say, 2010, whenever it really began to crest.
This is actually a prototype SX70 from around 1973, which was used by Edwin Land himself and given to me by a friend. It just kind of shows the ingenuity of Polaroid. It folds.
Harry McCracken is the technology editor for the American-based Fast Company magazine and creator of Technologizer, a website about technological developments and their socio-political impact.
The idea for instant home movies was as old as the idea for the Polaroid camera, so it dated back to the 1940s. And by the late 1960s, they were working on the film technology that would make it possible. And it was such a big undertaking that it wasn't until 1977 when they announced it. And Edwin Land had an amazing track record for coming up with crazy ideas and making them work, then making them successes.
Instead of having to wait days for film to develop, Land wanted people to be able to see their videos immediately. That was his idea for instant video, and it would be called the Polavision. It would revolutionize the film industry in the 1960s, the way Apple had done so with the smartphone decades later in 2007.
Polaroid and Apple had a lot in common because of Edwin Land and Steve Jobs. Neither of them really believed in market research. They would come up with ideas for products that people would not know whether they liked because they had never seen them. And then they would create those products and they would be wildly successful.
Steve Jobs was honored by the comparison. He idolized Land.
Jobs expressly said that he modeled his company on Polaroid. There's an interview with him in which he starts talking about Land, and he says, that's what kids should aspire to be. A great scientist at the intersection of the sciences and the humanities.
Within the company, employees worshipped Edwin Land. and they were some of his invention's biggest fans.
It was, as a technological achievement, spectacular. It was beautiful.
All you had to do was record your videos and pop the used cassette into the player. The cassette had chemical pods that would break open and develop the film instantly. And a tiny projector would screen the final video on the front panel of the player.
Other people had thought of doing this in the past, but no one pulled it off like Polaroid did, and it worked really well.
The Polavision was poised to shake up the video industry with its groundbreaking instant formula.
When he was on stage at this Polavision reveal, people freaked out. I mean, they were stunned that this was even a product that was possible to produce, let alone something that was gonna go to the market.
When I didn't know about it, I thought it was like talking about clocks. But then when I saw the app, it's about dancing people and pranking.
Oh, everyone's dancing. That's it. Just lots of dancing videos.
I'm not really sure, but I have a feeling that it is something like Facebook.
I've tried it out 2 or 3 times and failed miserably, and then I just gave up and went back to Instagram.
Everyone and everything. TikTok is becoming, I guess, similar to whatever Instagram and Facebook are like, where it doesn't matter if you're The Rock or some 14-year-old, you know, people are joining in.
How did we get to the TikTok age? Well, let's go back to the late 90s. The internet was growing, and people were sharing videos via emails with subject lines like this. Those made their rounds as high-speed internet access finally arrived in the early 2000s. The first camera phones were created, and this was when video became truly instant. With the rise of smartphones, online videos grew phenomenally. With the launch of social media sites like Friendster, MySpace, and Facebook in the 2000s, paved the way for YouTube. At this point, video durations also shortened, leading to the creation of the micro or the short-form video. Instagram, Vine, and finally TikTok came into being in the 2010s and beyond.
We've seen the ecological system of social media apps. Sometimes we will see a tide come and then the tide will go. There are so many social media apps booming and then gone.
TikTok's rapid rise and current success is nothing short of cosmic. But
in this digital environment where everything is very fragile, it can fall apart within months, within a year.
Lawrence Kohler helps businesses understand consumer motivations and trends.
Competitors are coming up very, very quickly. That's one. And then 2 is the consumer mindset is very fragile as well.
And TikTok might seem like a copy of other video sharing apps at first, but it actually takes a completely different approach to wooing potential users.
You get tired, you get sick, and when you get sick,
I'm not playing!
The chaos you've been witnessing is what your first brush with the app is like. The For You page bombards you with videos that play automatically, forcing you to swipe up to move on to the next one if you don't want to watch it.
It basically recommends you a video based on your viewing preference. Yeah, so through this machine learning algorithm that is behind the For You feed, it basically serves as a platform or as a tool for users to constantly look for interesting videos.
Doreen Tan is part of the TikTok team that decides what the user experience on the app should be like.
How we derive what will feed into your feed is based on user interaction with the accounts you follow, with the kind of videos that you interact with, you like or share, or you comment, and the type of comments you leave on videos. You will constantly be engaged on the platform.
We won't get into the ones and zeros of it, but the algorithm learns from all these actions you take, and then forces you to watch a bunch of stuff, sees how you react, refines its next set of offerings, repeats that process over and over till it hits home and you say I do and are practically married to your TikTok screen for hours on end. The novelty of the forced feed draws people in, and the hyper-customization over time, as the machine learning algorithm, well, listens and learns, keeps you coming back for more. Launching late worked for TikTok because it could differentiate itself by learning from existing competitors' mistakes. Also late to the creation of instant videos, Polaroid's Polavision, which finally launched in 1977 after more than a decade in development.
It's a taster. It's very heavy.
I think you put your eye in here.
Look at that, yeah. Looks like Polaroid came out with a handycam.
Have you ever seen anything like that when you were younger?
Like this? No. A bigger sort of shoulder camcorder I've seen.
It looks like a film camera.
Land debuted the Polavision in a dramatic fashion to some 3,500 Polaroid stockholders and the firm's executives, proclaiming a new field of science, art, and industry.
When he was on stage at this Polavision reveal, people freaked out. I mean, they were stunned that this was even a product that was possible to produce, let alone something that was gonna go to the market. There were some people there that rightly pointed out all the problems with it in New York Times articles and some things like that, where it was kind of like a footnote, but most of the people there were just freaking.
The anticipation, immense. The reveal, all but pomp and circumstance. The reality, not quite what Land was hoping for.
Well, the Polavision system cost $675, which was about $3,000 in today's dollars. And at the time, even if you were wildly excited about the idea of Polavision, there was a pretty good chance that you wouldn't have been able to afford to get it.
This was released right before the home tape cassette revolution. So we're talking Betamax, we're talking VHS, all things you know today. Why don't you know about Polavision? Well, it's because Polavision did not win against those things.
Polavision might have been cheaper than its competitors. A Betamax tape system went for about $2,000 US at the time, while the VHS system went for about $1,000. But that $675 price point went from expensive to extravagant when you actually considered what it was capable of.
A Betamax tape held at the beginning an hour of recording, later on 2. A Polavision cartridge was 3 minutes long. And you couldn't erase Polavision film. You could re-record a Betamax tape. Betamax had sound, Polavision was silent. All these things suggested that Land's development of Polavision had simply taken too long.
Soon, both Betamax and VHS systems offered up to 3 hours of recording time.
He wanted it to be so perfect and took so long getting it as technologically wonderful as it was that he missed the window of opportunity.
Edwin Land tried to leverage the exalted cult status the Polaroid enjoyed in the art and pop culture world. Even John Lennon made films of Yoko Ono with the Polavision. It not only didn't impress, it also marked the start of Polaroid and Land's downfall. Before ByteDance created TikTok, they launched a domestic Chinese version of it called Douyin in 2016. The Chinese tech world was dominated by giants Tencent and Alibaba. ByteDance was just 4 years old, and Douyin had a small user base in the country. But founder Zhang Yiming wanted world domination.
He's really fiercely independent. He turned down an acquisition offer for ByteDance, and he has gone on his own.
Douyin had to compete with these big giants by banking on the fame that local influencers brought. It wasn't enough for Zhang to have Douyin thrive only in China.
He had global ambition and wanting to go global. That was a big difference. You know, many of the original Chinese startups just wanted to tap into the domestic China market because that's big enough, right? The China market is big enough already. He raised financing globally, you know, from global sources, come up with an idea that could translate around the world, that could be equally popular in no matter where you were.
But when ByteDance first introduced TikTok, or what they called the international version of Douyin, to the rest of the world, it was confronted by a complete culture shock.
TikTok is something we usually associate with the youth group. And we usually think like it's where the adolescents sing and dance and share viral funny videos. But then in China, Douyin has educational videos, demonstration videos, cooking, beauty, fashion, education, sports, wellness.
What trended in China didn't necessarily trend in the rest of the world. For example, knowledge-based content is extremely popular in China, and less so in the US. So TikTok had to start from scratch, rethink user habits completely, and build up a whole new slate of content that would attract international users. Users that were already hooked to other established social media apps. So, in order to stand out and reach the world, TikTok needed to attract creators that could create global content that could cut across cultural boundaries.
I started creating TikTok videos kind of as a way to bond with my siblings and my family. My first few videos were of my siblings, and then it started with the code switching video of my brother that kind of blew up and went on from there.
23-year-old Nancy Eva Walter Makundi is one of those creators.
我让我 cook 嘞
No cook 我都不要吃
用讲
打
去啊快啊
After posting a viral video where she fluidly switches between an African accent and Singaporean accent, she amassed over 80,000 followers in a matter of 10 months. Nancy's TikToks feature her Tanzanian parents and siblings.
They don't really have a choice. If I shove the camera in their face, they're gonna have to appear in my videos. I am an African that grew up in Singapore all my life, so I learned Mandarin. A lot of my content ends up being able to educate people and being able to even shine a light on like where my country, Tanzania, even is. And yeah, just more about Africa, that is a continent, not a country, little things like that.
Things in my African home that just make sense.
Cross-cultural content aside, Nancy's creation of choice is another thing that makes TikTok refreshing and attractive to new users.
And these curtains that do not block any light.
I think this generation's coping mechanism for a lot of things is humor. What's your favorite color?
Light blue, very light blue.
R.E.D.
Let's go. You could gaze into the future. Humor is encouraged and even celebrated on TikTok. Funny content is liked and reshared millions of times over.
So the spread of information or the diffusion of information really gets helped a lot by humor. It's just because you want to share the happiness with your friend, with your families. I think humor just drives people to take actions.
To stoke those creative fires further and get creators creating more content that would attract even more users, TikTok came up with a plethora of tools to inspire creation. Today, Nancy is using an audio template that's been trending. TikTok collates tons of them in an easy-to-reference page for creators looking to find inspiration.
Can I show you this BTS song? How long is it? It's 4 minutes and there's more? My boy, you still go?
There are other creation cues like duets, a feature that encourages users to respond via a split approach to each other's videos. And filters that situate you anywhere, like back in class for your first day at school.
My name is Beyonce. Beyonce? Mr. One, let me see you. Yes, that's me. That's me.
TikTok learned to celebrate bleeps, bloopers, and authenticity from its predecessors, an approach that is completely opposite to other video and photo sharing apps like Instagram, where everything is perfectly curated.
TikTok allows me to be very authentic and raw. A lot of the times when I create the content, I just post and go.
It's just managed to appeal to this young generation and be fun and actually attract a global audience as well. It's really the first Chinese tech titan to straddle this global world. And so TikTok has been very revolutionary in that regard.
TikTok offers plenty of answers for the paralyzing question of, what should I post? The result is an endless unspooling of material that people might be too self-conscious to post on Instagram.
It's an instant pastime. It doesn't take long. It's easy to understand. There's no translation required. You can get involved yourself if you want. You can create your own. You can, be your own creator. So it appeals to the ego as well.
3, 2, 1. Oh, that is science, people.
Even though it has a reputation for the funny, goofy, and downright outrageous, one unexpected trend has emerged from TikTok: educational content.
Why TikTok is doing education, it seems puzzling to a lot of people initially. What does education mean? Essentially, it's motivation and advice, your DIY type of videos, and life hacks type of videos. Yeah, so as the user starts, growing on the app itself, we have also seen people wanting to learn more on the platform, and we also want to provide the outlet for people to learn things or learn new things on TikTok.
There is actually an area of research called entertainment education. People would bring this element of entertainment into dry stuff. Because traditionally we think a lot of this educational stuff are dry, but then once you bring entertainment elements, it's making the process more joyful.
So education on TikTok could range from cooking videos to what a flight stewardess's life is really like during trips.
Excuse me, ma'am, what are you doing? I'm looking for the toilet. That is the door to the outside. The toilet is right over here. Help, I'm stuck!
Across the different regional markets, one of our key focus right now is building on the education vertical. Yeah, so across, taking Vietnam, for example, where they work with Ministry of Education there to launch edu-related live streaming shows and campaigns.
On TikTok, there are just so many different types of creators on there and so many different types of motivation out there. But I think one common feature of all of them is that they like to share with other people what they are passionate about.
An ingenious moving picture cassette that reproduces the images instantly.
Polavision content, on the other hand, could not be shared. And that was a small detail that Edwin Land overlooked.
One of the disappointing things about Polavision was it did not really live up to the Polaroid vision, which was about things being really instant and really accessible and really shareable And because Polavision didn't let you immediately share your movies, a little bit of the magic that had worked so well for Polaroid for so long was not there.
The Polaroid company certainly thought they had already solved that problem with this pretty little thing.
The main problems was with this player. As beautiful as it is, like I said, I mean, it's so heavy. I mean, you're not carrying this thing around. This is gonna stay in your house. It's also pretty small, and people just did not want to see things on this size screen. And so there are some beautiful design elements. It was in this period of flourishing design and product development for Polaroid, but in itself, it's nice to have on the shelf, you know, and keep these around.
And stay on the shelf the Polavision would. Store shelves.
It landed on the market in 1977, and it was not a hit. The projection was that they'd sell 200,000 sets of camera and player, and they did maybe a quarter of that in the end. It just didn't take off.
The Polavision flopped simply because it didn't have any users in the 2 years it was produced. In the same vein, TikTok's well-oiled machine runs on a harmonious cycle of creation and consumption. Creators create increasingly ambitious clips, and users or fans continue to consume.
The Musical.ly acquisition was a huge game changer for TikTok's success. It made it instantly global.
ByteDance bought Musical.ly in 2017 for $1 billion and subsumed all of its user base instantly.
They automatically picked up 200 million followers. And then they got Musical.ly's deals that had already been going with some of the major studios in the US, like NBC and Viacom, and they got that automatically. So it was a huge home run and got them into the US market instantly.
But the Musical.ly acquisition was not just about gaining the number of users automatically ported on. Musical.ly also came with the licensing of music that was core to TikTok's early success. With music as its Pied Piper, TikTok's followers continued to flock to the app in droves. In August 2020, TikTok's monthly active users rose to 800 million. That's 10% of the entire world's population. In 4 years, TikTok has soared on an unbelievable trajectory, growing faster and going further, but not without controversy.
I think the regulations are so tough on them because it's a tit-for-tat game. I think it's potentially very damaging. It could be a PR disaster.
An ingenious moving picture cassette that reproduces the images instantly. I drop it in, and that's it.
Edwin Land, founder of Polaroid, had pushed for his groundbreaking invention, the Polavision, for over a decade. He thought he could recreate the same success he had with the Polaroid cameras with the video version as well.
There was a certain hesitation within the company because this development project was crazily expensive. And there was a feeling that we're not sure about this one, but he's always been right before. And through force of will and force of personality and force of track record, Land kind of pushed it through despite the hesitations of his executives and colleagues. Land had conceived this product in the earliest days of Polaroid, and 40 years later, he was still hung up on this idea, and he could not see that the world had started to shift.
After it was obvious it was not going to be a mass market success, they tried to convince business people to use it for things like taking movies of homes.
Or something to document industry processes. And desperate times called for even more desperate measures.
The idea was that the comparison with Betamax, big heavy Betamax camera, would benefit from the demonstration. So they actually talked with door-to-door vacuum cleaner sales company, Electrolux, about selling Polavision door-to-door. Can you imagine? It sounds antique. That didn't go anywhere either.
Land continued to innovate and tried to demo a version that could make movies with sound at Polaroid's 1979 annual meeting. but no one stood behind the idea, or him anymore. Polavision's losses had to be written off.
The write-off was $68 million, which in 1979 or 80, whenever it was a lot of money. The internal document, it's a little hard to say exactly what the whole thing cost them, but some people say $500 million went into Polavision, and it was basically a write-off.
At the end of the day, it was a one-trick pony with the Polaroid cameras. They created an instant video, 3-minute, for people to view immediately, while Beta and VHS were creating an ecosystem and were fighting the war of being the structural owners of that. So it's completely two different markets. I don't think they even had a competition going on. I think they were more competing in the market of 8mm and home video.
The Polavision ceased production just 2 years after it was announced, and Edwin Land resigned in 1980.
He lost a certain amount of his, sort of brilliant sheen over that. His board began to grow a little frustrated with him, but also he was getting old.
With no one to keep the company relevant, it slid into a slow but inevitable decline. In 2001, the Polaroid Corporation filed for federal bankruptcy protection. By 2008, they were no longer producing any more Polaroid film. In mid-2020, things were not looking so good for TikTok in various parts of the world. India banned TikTok in retaliation to a violent border clash with China. And former US President Donald Trump threatened a similar course of action, claiming that TikTok has transferred US citizen data to the Chinese government.
I think the regulations are so tough on them because it's a tit-for-tat game. When China launched the big Great Firewall, it also kind of created a huge barrier for any foreign company to, set up camp in China.
In August, TikTok was ordered to sell its American arm to a US company if it wanted to continue functioning in the region. The Chinese government has repeatedly condemned the regulations, and the order remains stalled in court in November 2020.
I think it's potentially very damaging. It could be a PR disaster because many other countries could follow that lead and question TikTok whether it's okay with data security. So they have to manage this really, really well in terms of communication and kind of making sure that there's no misconception in terms of what they're doing with the data.
In an official statement, TikTok has denied the allegations. And while the tech giant needs to tread carefully in the West, it's expanding aggressively in the East.
Asia is very important. TikTok was birthed here, but we're also seeing huge growth in markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, South Asia, of course. There's huge demographic dividend.
Arjun Narayan is focused on helping TikTok build the one component essential for the tech giant's success in the region.
User safety and privacy, these would be the defining areas for TikTok and trust and safety. And it's going to be pivotal for us to scale and grow into the future.
TikTok's actions in Southeast Asia reflect the global strategy ByteDance is implementing to avoid regulatory hiccups in new regions it plans on entering.
There are countries which say X and X topics are not allowed, and then we follow the law because it is a legal regulation. Beyond that, then there are things like cultural red lines or offensive type of content. So this is where we spend a lot of time understanding where to draw the line and how to draw the line.
As a global tech company that prides itself on its multicultural content, TikTok is constantly torn between encouraging hyper-local and personal, yet internationally acceptable videos.
How do we maintain that balance? This is where our recommendation engine, our machine learning comes into play, where we are trying to create a very unique, individualistic consumer experience.
TikTok's machine learning algorithm doesn't just recommend things you like, it also recommends things you'll find acceptable. And it's how TikTok plans to keep its ever-burgeoning user base entertained and safe. But in doing so, TikTok risks limiting users' experience and putting them in filter bubbles. So the algorithm constantly has to balance interrupting repetitive recommendation patterns and not serving up random videos users aren't interested in at all. It's a tricky balance the app continually tries to maintain. From Polaroid's Polavision in the past to today's tech giant TikTok, shareable instant videos have completely transformed. No matter what the next iteration brings, the magic of the instant shareable video will continue to inspire visionaries and their genius innovations for decades to come.